state of emergency. Well, we went as far as shutting K through 12 schools down for 4 weeks so far. There's talk about extending it. Minimizing public gatherings. You can see when we wrote this Saturday night, last night, Sunday night, we're down to less than 500. Now we're down to 10, okay? So you can see how fluid the situation is, how fast things are changing. Probably tonight, before we go to bed, everything's going to be false from this presentation, okay? But it's such a fluid situation that we're trying to keep up to date with it. And county's notifying us by email. And I will do my best to keep you up to date as the information comes out. But I want you to understand that the information is changing by the minute as they find out more about the virus. Okay, less than 50% occupancy. So I guess we're good in this room. Say the room's 100 people, we could have 50 people in here. We need to make sure that we retain all purchasing documentation. This is a federal disaster. We found out after the floods that we could get reimbursements. We need to make sure that everything is documented. If you buy anything, it needs to go to Assistant Chief Congdon, and he will keep a log of what we spend out on this whole entire disaster. And we may or may not get funded in the end, but we need to keep close records of what happens. So far, 0 cases in Broome County. As of last night, I can tell you there was 32 pending tests. I don't know if we've heard of any positive tests at this point.
As of 3 o'clock, no.
As of 3 o'clock, no. Okay.
Were any of those from the colleges?
No.
No. The whole county, we're talking, Department of Health. Best case scenario, no one gets it. Worst case scenario, everyone gets it. They really don't know. It's hard to tell where we're going to end up on this. We can make forecasts on it, but we really don't know. It's a whole different situation than China. It's a whole different situation than Seattle. We're a little more prepared than they were because we've had the time since it's happened in Seattle, and we've definitely had time since it happened in Wuhan, China. And we definitely have a different healthcare system than Wuhan, China. So it's hard to tell where we're going to be. As Governor Cuomo was saying this morning, we want to get ahead. We want to flatten the curve. Okay, we don't want that spike of people coming into the hospital right away. We want to slow that down so we ease the burden on the healthcare system, because that's where the true problem is going to come. Indicators: upper respiratory tightness, dry cough, and fever. Okay, you should be first of all the residents of Endwell aside, you should be thinking to yourself, do I have dry cough? Do I have tightness of my chest? And do I feel like I have a fever? If you feel any of those symptoms, stay home, okay? We need to keep our crew as intact as possible. It just takes one person to spread this around. Rob will talk about the whole incubation period of this. When a patient presents any of these symptoms, you should be thinking automatically distance, okay? You should be thinking PPE. We'll talk about our proper PPE. And you really need to limit your crew that goes in. If you're in charge of a crew, an engine, we want to limit it to maybe 1 or 2 people that make contact with that patient, hopefully with PPE on. If they have PPE on, it's not a contamination, okay? It's when you don't have all your PPE on that you're contaminated, then you have to go through the quarantine and testing and all that nonsense, okay? Restrained response, 1 to 2 members initially. No POV. We don't want to see any personal operated vehicles on scene. I don't care if it's a CPR. I don't care if you're a safety officer. You are to come to the scene and take department vehicles. We want to be able to control the situation. We want to be able to take all our guys after the fact and debrief and make sure everything's decontaminated, including yourselves. We don't want you to bring the germs back to your house. With that being said, everyone has your bag with your raincoat in it, correct? Everyone should. If not, we'll get you a bag. Bring a bag in. Bring a change of clothes. Keep it at the station. Full change of clothes that when you come back to the station, you can shower, you can get cleaned up, and you can change before you go home to your family, okay? We don't want anyone getting contaminated back at the house. Okay, 6-foot circle. You need that. Everyone's joking about it. You need that 6-foot circle. Okay, dispatch protocol. Dispatch is going to be prompting us. You're going to hear this on the dispatch if they present any of those symptoms. Airborne precautions recommended. I've heard it, I think, 3 times myself so far. They said they will do the best at getting us that information. However, they gave a little disclaimer that sometimes their best is not always good enough. They get the information that's given to them. So if the person's lying to them on the phone, that's the information they get. So it's up to you to have a heads-up attitude when you get on scene to say, these people might have symptoms, and recognize them and delay your crew and restrain them. Keep them from going into the scene. Okay. PPE recommendations, first responders. You're going to wear medical gloves. We currently have 10 boxes in the station. Okay, we've ordered more. We have ordered more with county. We didn't receive them, and we hope that they come by the end of the day, or by the end of the week. They were supposed to be here today, but they're delayed. N95 masks. So far we have 20. Hopefully by the end of the week we have more. Safety glasses. We have safety glasses. We've ordered some. Hopefully they come in. We have tons of safety glasses. So if you need a set of safety glasses, you need to get with us tonight to get those safety glasses. Protective clothing. Your bunker gear is going to protect you from this virus. Tyvek suits are going to protect you from this virus. And the isolation gowns that the county should be supplying us with are going to protect you from the virus.
These are for confirmed.
Yeah, that's for confirmed patients. All right, patients need a surgical mask. This is going to work as our surgical mask. All right, just so you can see the camera. All right, these are not surgical masks. These are the N95 masks. Make sure that you put one of these over the patient as soon as you can. That's going to protect the mucus from being projectile off of the patient onto you. This will protect it from being inhaled into your lungs. So won't your SCBA. Don't hesitate to put on an SCBA.
As Chief Palazzo was saying, the previous procedures are for when dispatch, either via text message or over the pager, says airborne precautions recommended, period. So part of the memo that everyone should have gotten talks about different responses. So if we have no suspicion of COVID-19, still going to limit personnel inside. We're still going to limit to 1 to 2 persons. Medical gloves on your hands, safety glasses, bunker gear. That includes coat and pants, zipped up, buttoned up, okay? I know it's, easy to just come off the rig, have it unzipped. You need to be zipped because you are protecting yourself, you are protecting your family. Because, again, that's the response if there's no airborne precautions recommended blasted to us. We're going to take a standard precautions. If there are precautions in place, then we will switch over to, the respiratory protection in addition to the eyes and the gloves. So, Decon Procedures. So we have come into contact with a patient confirmed or is currently waiting results back. So we will, go in, do our jobs. It may take longer, but again, restraint and response. So in terms of fire gear, when you come out, you're going to doff all of your gear. helmet, hood, gloves. If air pack was required, air pack, bunker pants, boots. We're going to place it into black trash bags. We can place it into the black trash bags. They'll be tied up. Either the incident commander or the chiefs or somebody will have to bring utility one, and we will place those bagged items into the bag. Once it gets back to the station, that gear, some personnel with gloves, with eye protection, can untie that bag right in front of the washer, dump it right into the washer. So the good news about this virus, per Broome County Department of Health, CDC last night, your standard EPA sanitizers are good for this bug. So what is that? That is your 10% bleach solution, and anything that can't tolerate that bleach solution, Dawn soap. Emulsify it, break it up, do a nice job. In terms of tools, again, if the tool can tolerate being sanitized with 10% bleach, that's our priority. If it's something like our bunker gear, the face piece, SCBA, Dawn dish detergent, hot soap is an accepted practice. Any surfaces, EPA approved sanitizers, 10% bleach. So if we have the EPA approved sanitized wipes, but frankly, the recommendation, because the wipes are so expensive and you're just going to blow through them real quick, is to have a spray and let it wipe down. As of this morning, the data that has been presented to us is that this thing on a non-metallic surface has a residence time of 3 hours. So a non-metallic surface like this plastic desk will hang out for 3 hours before it's inactivated. Metallic surface, its residence time will last longer. I've heard as quick as 12 and as late as 72 hours, depending on what the metal is. So there's variance that's unique. Usually these things don't hang around on metal. Usually they hang on non-metal surfaces. So that's kind of a big flip. But that residence time is without any cleaning agent. Once you hit it with a cleaning agent, it breaks it up nicely, and the surface is now clean.
What are we doing with the stuff that we wipe it off with?
So we're going to put that in a trash bag and dispose of it, because again, the stuff that we're using to wipe up in and of itself will be sanitized. So the virus is destroyed, inactive. Other questions? Now's the time to ask if there's any uncertainty, cloudiness. One thing that at an incident command level, for not just basically anybody who's incident command, exposure report. Those individuals that enter the residence, that needs to appear in the documentation, whether in the pink sheet, whether an addendum to the pink sheet. Again, I'll use the example of carbon monoxide, that carbon monoxide form, who handled the meter, who went with them. Again, we're not telling you not to go on calls, we want a restrained response. Okay.
Chief, can you give me an example? Run me through. We've got a CO call, and dispatch doesn't tell us that there are any kind of airborne precautions to be taken. What steps do you want us to take when we get on scene?
So, great question. So the first arriving officer, whether it be on the truck or one of the chiefs, is to interview the homeowner from outside the residence, again, keeping the 6-foot barrier. So let's say it's a lieutenant on the engine. Lieutenant on the engine will make first contact, interview, give the typical 3 questions. Does anyone in the residence have flu-like symptoms, shortness of breath, dry cough? The travel question has kind of gone away because now New Rochelle is one of those travel places. Again, you interview. If you have any inkling, then it is your prerogative, or we have your back, that if you want your members to mask up and suit up, then go for it. If you feel that it doesn't, the answer to those questions are no, then you send 1 to 2 members in to meter, medical gloves, eye protection. With this virus, it's clear it's got to enter through the mucous membranes, eyes, nose, mouth. Absorption through the skin isn't a viable route, but we're still going to put on the gloves in case some of you still touch your face for whatever reason. If this doesn't scare you out of touching your face, nothing will. And then you continue business as usual. Again, try and limit people inside the residence unless you feel you need to put in. On the flip side, if you feel that, that you want to take the extra precautions, take it. Take it. What's it going to cost us? A little extra time and washing some gear and letting it dry? I trust our officers and our leadership to make that determination.
This doesn't go for building fires or house fires, right?
Right. MVA, as you can state here, active fire MVAs.
We never actually got that.
Oh. Okay. So, all right. So this, I'll make sure copy. I'll make sure this memo goes out like as soon as I'm done here. But it says active fire MVA, no change needed, standard universal precautions, standard process. If you look at the current state mandate for active house fires, it's after the fire's out and everybody's done salvage and overhaul. They want you to doff your gear and decontaminate in the yard and put it in bags and put it in the back of the utility. So these procedures that we have is what we should be doing for active fire. And again, fire, active fire will kill all the virus, so not really a big concern. So, cool, good questions.
No gross decon would happen.
What?
No gross decon would happen. Had a fire, working fire.
You're supposed to.
What was that?
We're supposed to, per New York State fire.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Do we have that stuff?
Yeah, it's Dawn dish detergent and some brushes. Yep. And, yes.
Quick question on that. I mean, even though, like Ron and myself, we probably won't be going in, like, would it be a good idea to take that extra precaution for, say, married apartments? Like, 9
So,
times out of 10, a lot of the
Great.
people in there-
So great questions. My question to you is: are you going to go inside Marion Apartments?
No, but.
Then that's not
Extra for everybody to know, just in case.
Well, if you're looking at the text message and looking at the pager, you were aware of everything in there. So this virus hangs out in the heavy, thick droplets, not in the fine droplets. When someone sneezes, cough, whatever. And again, the hardest sneeze is maximum range is 6 feet, or just under 6 feet. So unless someone's hawking loogies from the 6th floor out into the parking lot, I think you're good.
The guys that go in, like you were saying, Broome County may not have that information for us. Take that extra, if they're gonna go in for smoke alarm,
Right.
go into the person's house, and they don't know they aren't given the information, oh, this person is potentially.
Right. So going into report, I'll get to reporting in a moment if I'm understanding you correct. Yeah. So again, just any questions on decon? Pretty clear, okay? So what is an exposure? An exposure with if you are wearing your proper PPE, it's not considered an exposure and is not mandated to get tested. Again, that is right from the horse's mouth. That's from Ponticello and from the Department of Health representative that was there last night. If you're in your proper PPE, and again, assuming no ripped gloves or any gross breaking of that, you're not considered an exposure. If you are exposed, you have to self-quarantine for 3 days. The chief or the incident commander must let the chief know and the Broome County Health Department know, and their arrangements will be made to come to your place of self-quarantine to be tested. The turnaround time right now, as of 3 o'clock today, is 3 days for a test. So in that self-quarantine while you're waiting for the test, 3 days. Again, incident commander must notify Broome County, must. It's a workman's comp case. There's all sorts of paperwork that need to be filled out. In addition to that, any first responder, police, fire, EMS gets bumped right to the front of the line. We were assured that yesterday. Yes.
So when you say proper PPE, you mean that we're wearing the N95 mask, they're wearing the surgical
Correct.
gloves? So
Eye
if we
protection.
don't have enough, if something happens in a week from now, we don't have any more N95 masks.
Well, as best I can tell you, we'll address it. We've already got our orders. Again,
But
it's
if
a great,
you're not wearing it, then you're considered.
right, an exposure. Yep.
When in doubt, just throw in your hat.
Yeah, SCBA exceeds the N95.
Yeah, yeah. And again, we will yell and scream and kick and fight for as many masks as we need. But unfortunately, us and all of upstate New York. So when we get to halfway, when we get to a quarter, we'll just have to address it as it comes. I'd love to have a crystal ball and look into it and give you an answer, but I don't have a better one. Yep. No, good question. All right. So isolation. So if you are considering exposure, you have to self-isolate for 3 days pending test results. If you get back a positive test, you have a subsequent isolation for 14 days. Why 14 days? The incubation period is 12 days. The extra 2 days before you start to show symptoms. So what's unique about this virus, reports are that the incubation period and the contagious period overlap by 2 days. So you can be still contagious before you show symptoms. So hence why they've got it out to 14 days. Again, 12 days, everybody's a little bit different based on your size, body mass, other couple other factors. So they extended that out to 14 days. I believe the numbers are like your incubation period is over at day 9, but at day 8 or 7 or 8, you can start being contagious. Okay, and conflicting reports on that. So they just said 14 days. Okay. Fit testing for the N95 cup mask. This is directive necessary personnel. So the chief and I, we sat down and we said, all right, our SCBA members definitely should be at the first of the list, followed by exterior, and then followed by members deemed by the chiefs. Okay. The fact of the matter is, as Jill pointed out, we have a finite amount of supplies as of right now, and we're going to have to make decisions. We're going to have that restrained response. So, one thing that is important to understand: this can't be like everybody load up on 4 of these things in their bunker gear, and then it sits in the rack, or 4 of these things and you can't change it. Take what you need to get the job done, and then if you need more, we'll address and let go. But I really hate for these things to just evaporate between now and our next call. So again, kind of, don't think about yourself, think about each other. The pickup for that was today in Endwell. We were told potentially Wednesday or Thursday they'll be ready for fit testing with the N95s. Friday. Now Friday? Okay, now Friday. Yeah. Again, logistics and shipping are all over the map right now. Okay. Ultimately, for notification, we have many members here. If you feel well, if you feel not well. If you don't feel well, stay home. Notify Chief Palazzo, okay? And not me, not the lieutenant, not the captains. Notify Chief Palazzo. Reason for notification of Chief Palazzo is twofold. One, we have a sense of manpower. We know, tones drop out, what we are getting, what we're not getting. Also, if you happen to be one of the people on the last call that we weren't expecting a COVID exposure, and then all of a sudden you start feeling symptoms, and then someone else on that call starts feeling symptoms, we have a potential for a case and we need to report to Broome County. Okay, so, as Chief Palazzo said, as best as the dispatchers can try to tease questions out, and as best as our first due officer can tease out questions, if they straight up lie to us, there's not much we can do. Rest assured, the question was asked about the Ryan White law and state of emergency. If there is a positive test of a patient we have come into contact with, we will be notified. That question was asked and answered. We will be notified. So that's something, we have some, hopefully if there is something that misses dispatch, misses the incident commander. If at the hospital they make a positive determination, it'll trickle back to us. This kind of reaffirms the importance of that exposure report. Who went into the residence, who came in, who did CPR, who helped carry the litter, who helped with the stretcher with the patient on it. These are important questions to be asked. Anything to add, Chief, on that?
Every single pink sheet should have this attached, regardless if there was a exposure or not, or a COVID-related patient on scene. We need this attached so we have a good accountability of any exposures. Okay, so make sure if you're filling out the paperwork, you need to attach these sheets. They're going to be in each apparatus and each chief car and in the radio room. So make sure that this gets attached to the pink sheet. We need to know it.
All right. So, any questions? Comments, concerns?
My experience at UHS, when they do the fit test, it's for sizes too. Are we gonna, I mean, is that being accounted for regarding sizes?
They have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're getting.
They're taking what they can get. We're lucky if we get N95 masks.
Will that be noted per person and personnel? If all you have is larges and they need a small, it's not gonna do them any good, that's what I mean.
Right.
So,
Well-
to kind of repeat Rich's question, do we know what sizes we get? And, in terms of size, there is a, if you're a large, can you fit in a medium with an SCBA? Yeah, that's the thing. You wrench it, you wrench it down or loosen it up. With these N95 masks, there will be, quote, an education program, a training component before we cut you loose. It's not just a fit test, there's an education. And it's a big, bold statement from the education is you cannot, must not use your incorrect size or you defeat the,
That's what I was trying
yeah.
to say. Like, what size are those right there?
This is one size fits most, apparently.
So that's where the fit test is going to be crucial, so you know if the mask is going to work for you.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, you shouldn't go in the call.
There are sizes. and each size
Yep.
is
Different brands, and that's not the brand that we use. I don't think that's the brand hospital.
No, that's not, but if we're gonna be doing fit tests to make sure that we're not, if I need a small and I got a large, I'm just gonna be inhaling whatever.
Right.
Yeah, and
Contaminants out there.
And Rich, it's a great question, and honestly, it's something we will ask county for. I mean, that's that's part of our job to advocate for you guys is that we have the right equipment. Yeah,
So to
Sean.
build off of Rich's question, if we only get the one size fit most or whatever, obviously it's kind of going to be a pass or fail at that point. So is there basically going to be like a response past group of people?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitively,
Yeah,
yes.
if you don't have a mask that can fit you, you shouldn't be making contact with the patient. And we're working with what we can get from Broome County at this point.
Just to finalize something, these are getting filled out if we come into something, contact with someone.
Every single call
Every call.
needs that filled out.
We're entering a call and we got smoke condition, or smell of smoke, or smoke detector activation. This is getting filled out for each person. that went
If you go on a call, you need one of those filled out with the pink sheet.
So then, is gear being washed?
It should be.
So,
So we're going on
So-
apartments, we're washing gear after.
so I'll use this. If we're going to Marion Apartments and we don't believe that there's airborne precautions to be taken, we could do a decon in the yard with Dawn and the supplies. Again, airborne precautions. If that's been expressed by dispatch, we're gonna get the trash bag, get the utilities, whatever.
No, I get that part, I just wanna make sure everyone knows
Right.
that it's getting filled out.
Right. Now, and again, you're gonna have to rely on the members inside. Hey, you know what? Ethel, who's cooking her grilled cheese sandwich, is hacking like crazy all of a sudden, and she's saying that she's got a fever. Then you know what? That's something the members should communicate and say, hey, you know what? I'd really like to be deconned, and we should really do that. And that's all just part of this communication of, we've got to work together on this, and you shouldn't be afraid to say,
Virus lasting once you get it.
so the numbers that out there is you can have, you're talking just symptoms, right?
No, when you get your symptoms, how long before you're,
How long does the cold last?
yeah.
Depends on who you are, depends on your age. I've read as fast as 2 weeks, as long as 6.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Now, again, before you, let's.
No, right, 2
So,
to 6 weeks.
so let's talk about, what kind of health you're in, what's your respiratory health. Rhetorical question, don't answer.
No, right, no, I get you, but it's a 2 to 6 week
Yep.
recover time.
Yes.
Wow.
Just like the flu. Some people get the flu and they're walking around after a little bit, and then some people are down for a month, month and a half. So again, the big overlap of flu-like symptoms.
This is for essentially the chief and the county and stuff like that. Is there any talk of actually not responding to echo calls?
So it was discussed, but the problem is if we start not going on echo calls, then we might as well close up the whole department. We have part of a responsibility. They're confident in that, with the proper PPE, that there's minimal exposure and you have, a very good chance. And that question was asked several times by the EMS agencies and by us. But as of right now, there's no expectation to, quote, not go on echo calls.
Will we be putting on our gears, you said CPR?
So our discussion is, I would, so
The gowns will be provided sooner or later, and I'd recommend wearing a gown. But if we don't have gowns, I'd create some sort of barrier between you and the patient.
yeah.
Your gear, I'd wear my gear.
Yeah, so
I'd wear my gear.
the recommendation is to wear your gear or a Tyvek suit, but to be frank about the Tyvek suit, it's one size fits medium. If you're a taller person, you're going to rip the bottom of that Tyvek suit out pretty sweet. It defeats any protective thing. The gowns are coming. We have them ordered on order with the county.
So are we treating all echoes as potential people that could have COVID-19? Is that kind of like a standard? I mean, because you can't,
You can't tell if they're having.
right, they're obviously having
Yes.
difficulty breathing because they're not, so.
Yes.
Okay, so treat them as if they have it.
Yep. I would.
Right, do we have a bunch of Tyvek suits? I understood the county had a bunch. No, yes.
We have, the ones we had have gone down the road. The ones that the hazmat team are expired, and my understanding, the ones that the county has are prioritized for EMS agencies, and there's more on order.
Right now, how many are here?
In the station, I don't believe we have any.
We've put an order in through county for isolation gowns.
No, right, I meant the Tyvek.
Yeah, the Tyvek suits. Bill?
Plan for fire department activities as in training.
So the plan for the building right now is no guests, so just fire department personnel. The board has decided to close the gym. As far as training, we're going to take it week by week, so there won't, following this week, there won't be training. There'll be training materials distributed via email, right?
This is the first time hearing that.
Okay. That was, yes. Right, there's any outside guests using the community room or station in any way, shape, or form is suspended until further notice. That was decided officially today at the special commissioners meeting. All New York State fire classes are suspended until April 16th, per the county fire coordinator. And
With department training, we'll be going on a week-by-week basis. We'll let you know on Friday if we're having training on Monday. It's too fluid of a situation to get to next week. We don't know what's going to happen next week.
All right.
So we'll keep you as informed as possible.
There's a balance to be struck with this. I mean, yeah, we want to be safe and protect our members. I also think there's a morale component. Part of being in the fire department is coming together during training. You know, so maybe we do trainings that aren't necessarily us crawling over each other and sweating, you know, or sitting in the classroom. Maybe we, you know, as the weather gets nicer, we can do things outside. Again, these are, like Chief Palazzo said, we're going to be flexible with this. We will let everybody know Friday prior to the Monday status of training. Again, we feel it's important to come together as a department and attempt to keep morale up. You know, again, to completely shut down training for the foreseeable future is bad for the department, bad for morale, and really is kind of creating a bigger risk when we do go on to calls. Again, we're going to monitor the situation and be as transparent as we can. Other questions? All good questions.
No questions? Then we're going to go up to the apparatus floor. We're going to make sure there's Decon bottles on each apparatus. We're going to make sure there's trash bags on each apparatus, and there's going to be Dawn detergent. We'll keep that in-house so we can decon here.
Or are we gonna do that at the scene?
No, we'll do that here. We're gonna spray it down here. We're gonna throw it in the pickup truck. We're gonna bring it down here and scrub it so in a controlled environment where we can make sure it's cleaned up well, rather than in the dark in a front yard somewhere.
So when we wash our gear, sorry, are we using the Dawn in place of the detergent that normally goes in?
No, our detergent that goes in, that's pumped into the washing machine, is spot on the right material. The Dawn is more for like deconning like an air pack that can't take bleach. Again, we talked about this, and we're going to have members dump their gear in its entirety into the washer, not separating inners and outers. The gear will tolerate it, and again, to have someone pull it all apart is just, if we suspect it's exposure, just an unnecessary risk. Put it all in, let it wash, hang dry.
Hand sanitizer should be coming. It's been ordered both through the county and through a local supplier. We intend to have a dispenser on each rig as soon as possible.